When you think of your project management tool, do you just think about managing tasks and projects? I mean, that's what's in the name, right? That's what it should be used for. But a good project management tool can run your entire business. It can really help you track all sorts of things and keep on task with the programs that you're working on, projects, people, keep tabs on your employees, but just keep everybody in the loop on what's going on inside your business. What's the overall health of what's happening inside your business? We use ClickUp as a project management tool and absolutely love how we can do so many different things with it, from task management to client information to just tracking every little nuance that is in our business. And so I'm excited today to have Jamie Hawk here to talk to you about 5 ways you might not think about using your project management tool. Jamie spent years researching, helping, and learning operations in all different industries. She was committed to ensuring small businesses can have a high-level fractional COO in place in early stages of their business. And she's here to share just how you can use that with a project management tool. Now, if you don't have one already, that's okay. You'll learn from her some things to think about when it comes to bringing in a project management tool to your organization. And if you already have one, then this is the perfect time for you to figure out how you can take better advantage of it. And it doesn't matter what tool you use. The resources that she's giving you can be implemented in almost any project management tool that's out there. So I hope you'll take a listen, because there is gold. And I think I'm walking away with a little homework assignment of my own. But before we get into it, this episode is brought to you by the Online Fundraising Virtual Summit. It all kicks off on October 24th. So head on over to onlinefundraisingsummit.com to check out all of the speakers and the goodness that's going on. It's all geared towards helping nonprofits build, grow, and expand their monthly donor programs for better sustainability. I really hope that you'll check it out and snag your free ticket. Again, onlinefundraisingsummit.com. Let's get into the episode. You're listening to the Digital Marketing Therapy Podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Bedell-Mulhern, and each week I bring you tips from myself and other experts, as well as hot seats with small business owners and entrepreneurs, to demystify digital marketing and get you on your way to generating more leads and growing your business. Hey everybody, please join me in welcoming Jamie Hawk to the podcast. Jamie, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here and chat.
Yeah. Well, and we're talking project management tools. And so before people run screaming saying, I don't want to talk project management tools, can you just kind of give your brief overview of why they're so impactful and why you need to have one no matter the size of your organization, and why it's not too late to get involved in a project management tool no matter what?
Yeah, it's funny because, a lot of our clients are like, oh, project management tools, they feel so heavy and all the processes and systems, and it can just seem like, oh, we don't want our business to go in that direction. But really the flip side to that is, not being able to keep track of projects, not being able to collaborate correctly with your team, and all of that kind of stuff. So yes, there is that feeling when it comes to project management systems, like, oh my goodness. But on the flip side, there's so many great benefits. It helps your team collaborate better together, keeps all of the communication in one spot, linked up to a project that communication is happening on. And so it just allows that, just more transparency, keeps all your project information in one place. You can create templates and workflows, and just a lot of things that you can do in a project management system that just helps you sleep better because you just know everything's being tracked. So yes, I think it's important for no matter the size of your business, even if you're a solopreneur and you're doing your own thing, it's still important to keep track of what those tasks are, what your deliverables are, and all of your project information.
Yeah. And I feel like with so many organizations working in a hybrid model, or still most people working remote, it's just a much easier way. I mean, how often have you searched for something in an email thread, but then somebody switched the topic halfway through in that email thread, so then now you can't find the thing that you're supposed to have in order to complete the project that you're supposed to be working on? I mean, that's happened to all of us.
Yeah. Or, what I run into a lot too is people talking about things over text because there's no good system in the company
Yes.
things. And then it's like, wait, I wasn't involved in that text message and I had no idea. So I asked the client. I didn't realize you asked the client. And so, yeah, there's so many ways that I hear people talking about the way they communicate with their team and how like inefficient it is and all this stuff. So project management system takes care of literally all of that.
And so we think about project management as what you just talked about, like how do we maintain our tasks? How do we kind of communicate with each other? But also kind of what you mentioned, like companies don't have an all-in-one kind of system for how we communicate and how we kind of work through things. So I'm really excited about our topic today because you're going to talk about 5 ways that people maybe don't think about using a project management tool, which I think is awesome because it might be that thing that pushes you over the edge to be like, okay, yeah, if we can do it with all these things also, then it might be the time to take the plunge and do it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about this. So let's just jump right in. So what's your number one way that you think people don't often consider using a project management tool for?
Yeah, so it's funny as I was thinking about this, there's so many ways that I think people can utilize it, but I think my number one way that people should be using it is to automate work. I think that there's a level of automating things where it becomes too automated. You kind of have to keep that human part of it as well. But to automate workflows is super important because sometimes it's the people. Somebody takes an hour lunch, and so you could have moved the project forward with somebody else who wasn't taking lunch. But really, because there's no automation or anything going on in there, nothing's really talking to each other. Nothing's really very intuitive. So really being able to automate as much as you can in your project management system will just help your workflow all around. So I think that's probably the number one thing I would say if you're not doing in your project management system, or you don't have in your projects currently, is automating as much as you can in your workflows.
So what might be some examples of automations that people might want to create?
Yeah. So I know sometimes for my clients, they have really large projects. So there's many things involved, many different people and departments having to talk to one another. And so being able to have information pull from one part of the business and their side of the project into another part of the project that somebody on the other side of the business is working on, but still needs that little information, super great. Another way is, there's different steps in every project and task that we do. It's not just this overarching task like, oh, I need to set up something. There's probably 5 or 6, 20 things that need to happen. And so allowing that stuff to automatically populate as it gets into different, statuses or sections of the project helps people get their tasks in a better way, but also helps make sure that it's all streamlined. So, as you're doing one project and you go to do the project for somebody else a month from now, it's following the same process and you're not having to recreate the wheel.
So would this be something like creating a template? So like, for example, with my podcast, when I put that into our project management tool, it automatically populates all the tasks that need to be done. And when one is completed and it's ready for the next person to do it, then it automatically shows up on their task list. So I don't have to worry about it until it gets to my next step. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah. So the automations, and then that also dives into one of the other things, which is templates. If you're not using your project management tool to have templates, so that's kind of both two of the 5 things that I think are important for sure.
Okay, cool. So one other thing, and I love that you put this on your list, is SOPs. This is something that has been on my list I'm just being real, for a very long time to create SOPs. It's something I struggle with. I think it's something that all of us struggle with, and we start to realize as we grow and we add team members and we add new stakeholders that like SOPs are critical. But I think people don't know where to put them. And so using that in your project management tool, I think is genius. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. And it's funny because I tell my clients this all the time. I'm like, even if you have the best SOPs in the world, if they're just sitting in a binder or like some Google sheet somewhere and you actually want your team to reference those on a daily basis, probably not going to happen. People are so busy. There's so much training. It's hard to always remember where things are at. And so really to pare that down and to have them all in one system is putting them into your project management system. So we talked about creating templates and automations. Well, in those templates and automations, you have your tasks in there and all of that stuff. Really, your SOP should live within those actual tasks. So if I have, for example, I onboard new employees. So I go into my system, I create a task for it, it populates all of the tasks I have to do for them. But not only that, within those tasks, it tells people how to do it. So if it's just setting them up an email or getting them signed up, with your email, it's how do I do that? How does that happen? Well, here are the steps to do it. And it's written right in your project management system. So that way, if, the girl that typically does it is, the employee that typically does it is out of town and I have to have somebody else do it, it's really easy to have somebody step in and it's not having to train somebody all over again on how to do it. And so it really creates it creates it easier for you to train, but then it also helps your employees as they're doing a multitude of tasks to see what the steps are for that specific thing.
Well, and I think too, the search functionality, right? Like if you have a binder and somebody's looking for information, it's not necessarily intuitive for everybody to go look in the same spot. But if if I have a question about vacation or I have a question about, how do I set up my email? Like being able to type something into a search in a digital format and be able to find it makes it so much easier for your team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly like you said. I've gotten SOPs from big corporations that I worked with before, and I'm always like, man, like, first of all, to read all of it, because I don't need to know it all today. I just need to know what I need to know today. And so sometimes it's like overwhelming people. And I've had that in many jobs where I just feel overwhelmed after training. And they always say, you're going to retain only 10% of this. And I'm like, then why are we spending hours doing it? Why don't you just tell me what I need to know to get started and then have the rest of it kind of walking me through as I do it. And so, I know I've been in situations like that where I've spent a week in training and I'm like, great, I've learned a lot, but I've learned almost nothing at the same time. And, that's kind of how they have to do because they have to get you onboarded really quickly. But if it was in their system, they could pretty much just start giving you tasks and start running on things and you're kind of learning and training as you're doing them. So that's kind of what we've seen. And also that search function is priceless. So.
Well, and then, so that is even another way to automate, right? And I love what you said about if somebody's out of town, like we can still carry on. We just have this, we're recording this in July. We just had this experience. Obviously, we had people that were on vacation and, we're in a sales cycle right now. And so we were like, okay, we really need to set some things up a little bit differently because we could have done a lot more follow up on our side while, she was out of town. But because we didn't have these things in a place where all of us could really figure out what was what, it was really hard for us to carry on. And, we kind of lost a week, which is totally fine, but could be better. And so this is a great way to just kind of be able to maneuver through and find the information you need, even if it's not your daily job.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think about not even just vacation, but people leave for other jobs sometimes and people, have to quit unexpectedly because things happen in their family or, they're out of pocket with COVID for months. That's happened before. And so, just things like that, tragedy happens and things happen and life happens, but your business still has to carry on. And because if it doesn't, then it starts to affect everybody on your team's life. And so, just having those things in place from the get-go just will really help the team, one, collaborate better, and then also just be able to pick up each other's slack as things shift and people's jobs shift. In a small business, jobs are constantly shifting. We have girls that are doing admin and then I'm like, oh, wait, I need you here. And then, oh, wait, I need you there. Yeah. So it's really easy to put them in these different places and give them these different tasks because I already have the SOPs. They just have to follow the steps in there. And so they're learning new skills. So next time I ask them to do it, they know how to do it. But until they get the routine of it, they at least have a step-by-step guide to reference within the task.
So good. So, okay, you touched on this briefly, but your next way to use a project management tool is employee onboarding. And I think this also rolls up into kind of an automation mindset. But I definitely think people don't think of a project management tool as being the way that we bring our employees into the business.
Yeah. So being able to streamline that process, and the reason I added this to my list is because I think there's client onboarding. I mean, there's so many things, but employee onboarding, everybody has to do that. Right. I mean, that's a pretty standard one that we create for every single one of our clients. An automation with a template, who's doing what, all the things, is employee onboarding, and thinking outside the box of different processes that you can put in place in your business, not just what are my deliverables to the client, but what does everything look like? My sales, what's the person doing on LinkedIn that's doing my outreach, or, whatever, just being able to put all of your processes in there, not just project, and being able to think about it from a business standpoint, not just what my deliverables are, is important.
Well, and this could be volunteer onboarding, board member onboarding. This could be your workflow for how you do welcoming for new donors. Like, it could be all of those things that are just automatically populated, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything, we've done things of, going into vendors and asking, how we onboard new vendors. We work with some clients who do have to have influencer marketing is what they do. And so they're constantly trying to find new influencers in different types of industries. So, we have them fill out a form that's right in the project management tool. What that does is it goes into like a influencer Rolodex for them. It assigns a task for somebody to check them out. So it's really just, and all they had to do was send a form, and all of this already automatically happened. And now we have a whole list of influencers we can reach out to. We know what industry they're in. We know what projects they would be best to help in. All just by one form. So yeah, so instead of having to vet these people out and get on calls with them, that takes a lot of time, especially when, we're talking influencers. You could probably get on a phone with 100 of them in a week if you wanted to, because they're always looking for things to do as people are. So I think it's important to, in anything you want to keep track of, not just projects, is really good to have in your project management tool.
Yeah, so I love these first three that you've talked about, are all very similar. So I think that's such a great place to start, because, you don't have to you're going to do the work anyway. So just do it all, like, take the time, just do it all at once. And just, I need to take my own advice and clean up my house as well. So you're inspiring me to do the same thing. Okay, so let's jump into the next one, because this is a little bit different. So you have mind mapping on your list. So why don't you first explain what mind mapping is for people who might be a new term for them?
Yeah. So the way that I use mind mapping is I like to know what people's processes are. And so it's really easy for me to be able to just mind map that. What's the core thing? And then how does everything work out onto that? And being able to mind map. So what I typically mind map are people's processes and systems, because that's what I'm in the industry of. So I've never run into a tool except the tool that I'm currently using that does this in a project management tool. And it has been life-changing for me. So being able to mind map, I know as business owners, as project managers, as all these, professionals in the world, we have so much in our mind, and sometimes being able to visually map that out onto something. And what's cool about doing it in your project management software is that you can mind map it, and you can turn that mind map into the project. So instead of being like, I have this mind map in this third party software, now I have to transfer everything into my project management system. You can do it right in this project management system. You can create the tasks right from the mind map. But really, it's just a way to be able to visually see what's in your head and see the routes that it could go. Is really what mind map is. And this project management tool that I use does that. And it's been life-changing, I know, for me.
So you could, if your tool doesn't allow you to do that, you could still do it on paper or in another, program, and then take whatever it is that you come up with and put it in. Like, that's always an option as well. And we'll talk about tools here in a little bit, but that's awesome. I have not. We both use the same tool, and I haven't done that yet, so I might need to.
Yeah, I'll send you a little tutorial on how to find it and all of that, so you can kind of check it out.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last one, and I love this. I love having this in your project management tool, is tracking goals.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we tend to do that in multiple places. Like, why not see it all in one space?
Yeah. And I think it's important to, remember, in organizations, we don't have just goals in general, just like our business goals and where we want to be and where we want to head, but there's also goals within projects and milestones within projects, especially the longer your projects are, you're thinking about milestones and all of that kind of stuff. And so if you have a project management tool that can track that for you, one, it allows your team to see, are you hitting the goals? Are you guys staying on track? All of that stuff also helps you see it. Being able to, and the client, you can basically update them and say, hey, we're 80% done with your project, or these are the 3 milestones we hit on your project this week. And so being able to track that right there is really great. But then also your internal goals. I know from experience, I've walked out of quarterly meetings and annual meetings where we have a list of stuff and goals that they want to hit for the next year. But nobody thinks about it 2 days after, if not a couple hours after the meeting. So being able to actually upload those goals as a company, like we want to hit $1 million this year, we want to, sign on 10 new clients a month, whatever it may be, being able to have that tracked and allowing your employees to actually put their hands on that and being able to update it and all of that kind of stuff helps get your employees rallied around your goals more than it just being some presentation they saw randomly at some quarterly meeting months ago. So yeah, being able to kind of put a process around it and everything as well.
Well, and I think I love being able to see them in real time and kind of celebrate it. So if you're tracking kind of some small, like you said, milestones that are getting us there, like it makes it so much easier for the whole team to celebrate those wins as you're working towards the bigger goal than to just say, well, we have $1 million plan. We're going to hit $1 million this year. And then you don't celebrate till you hit the end of the year. Or maybe you don't because you didn't hit it, right? As opposed to being able to say, well, okay, here we're on track. And that visual, I'm a visual person. So that's what I love about all of these things being in a system like this is that everybody can see it without having to be like, hey, so-and-so, where are we at with XYZ? It's like, well, I can go in and look and say, hey, for Q1, we're right on track for hitting our financial goals or whatever it might be.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a pretty visual person too. And so being able to have that and again, even if your team's not looking at it daily, the fact that you can send a snapshot of where you guys are at with your goals and send that to your team on Friday or pull it up during your team calls instead of it being like, well, this was our goals, but okay, where are we at with those? Being able to actually have it and just send a screenshot to your team once a week to celebrate, is a great way to keep the team motivated. It's a great way to, show your team when they need to step up because we're behind on the goals, which is equally as important, right? This is equally as important to celebrate the wins as it is to know where you're falling short and where you need more energy on. And so this will help you, equally in that area as well.
So there are a lot of project management tools out there. Mm-hmm. So before if somebody's listening to this and they're like, okay, I'm sold. Like I want to, kind of jump in and try to figure out how this can work inside of my organization. Do you have any tips for how people might want to evaluate so they don't go down the rabbit hole of just, oh, I'm going to try this one. I'm going to try this one. I'm going to try this one. because that can take months, Yeah. So how would you kind of encourage somebody to start the process of figuring out the right project management tool for them?
Yeah. So we've vetted out a lot of project management tools just over the years and just because people have asked us what we think about them. And so we've vetted out a lot. And, it's important to note that none of them are going to be perfect for what you want. If you're looking for the perfect project management tool for your business, it doesn't exist. It's either going to do too much, it's going to do too little. It's not going to give you exactly what you need. So you might have to find some workarounds. So that's number one is what I would say is if you're looking for the perfect tool for your business, doesn't necessarily exist. So it's finding the best system for your business. We work with a lot of different types of businesses. And so we've seen a lot of what people have used and all that stuff. And we can sit and talk about the negatives of all of them and the positives of them. It would take forever. So I would say is just going in with the mindset of no project management tool is going to be exactly what I want. I just need to find the thing that hits 80% of what I need and allows for workaround for the rest. And that will really help you in your journey of trying to find a project management tool that will be right for you and your business.
Well, and the beauty of this is that pretty much all of them have a free option. Mm-hmm. So your entry in is not, that's a blessing and a curse, right? Because that's why so many people try so many all at one time. So would you recommend kind of maybe having a checklist, doing kind of like a good, better, best of features and integrations, and then just kind of picking one and just going with it?
Yeah.
so that you can really put all your stuff in there.
Yeah, definitely coming up with like a really good checklist of what's important and what you're currently doing for projects. We have some clients that they're really doc heavy. They like to create docs, they like to have lots of notes. And so finding a project management system that they can house all of that is really important. And so, that might be really important to you. It might be really, really important that you can use color coding and tags and you can see where the process is at and timelines. That could be a different system. And so, yeah, making a list of what's important to you and what are your top 5 things that you really want to see out of a project management tool, and then some things that are pretty important, and then some things that you don't care about as you're going through them, right? If you're like, oh, it does this feature, I don't care about that. It's okay to go with a project management tool that does too much. I would very much so caution. I would go with the most powerful tool you find, because as your business grows and all of that kind of stuff, you can grow into it. The last thing you want is to do one that's like, oh, this hits just what I need. And then a month, 2 months, 3 months from now, you're like, oh man, we have to switch, because switching a project management tool, it's doable. A lot of them now like work within each other, right? Because they want you to switch over to their software. So they make it pretty easy. But it's still team. You got to still set up the automations that are, specific to that tool. So this is one decision that shouldn't be taken lightly. If you get on the wrong project management tool, it's not impossible. It just is a little bit of work to get it. We've switched people out of project management system. That's what we do all day. We try to get people on the system that we use because we believe it's the best out there. So it is doable, but it's definitely a pretty heavy lift, especially when it's not what you do on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. And I would say especially if you're a solo shop or if you're a smaller team, I would also take into consideration like how you work, because I've used different. So I'll just say we both use ClickUp. That is the tool that I've landed on. I know that's Jamie's tool of choice.
Yep.
And again, for the same reasons you just said, it's really robust. I can use what I need right now and grow it into, as our team expands, it makes it a whole lot easier. But it could be there's other tools that are out there that are much more simple, like Trello. I shouldn't say simple, but Trello is great. A lot of people use Asana. A lot of people use Monday. And for my nonprofit friends, I would definitely make sure that you reach out to them about a nonprofit discount, because a lot of them will have that as well. But really, I think taking into consideration how you work and what's going to make sense for the way that you use the system. Because if that doesn't work, then that's a huge barrier, because you want people to be in it all the time.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing about a project management system as well. And this is what I tell clients as well, is you have to sell it to your team. It is not something that your team is just going to, oh my gosh, I love logging into this thing and seeing my long list of things I have to do this week. That's not going to happen. Especially when you get into people that are creatives or people that aren't process minded. And, there's those people out there. I'm a very process minded person, but if you handed me a pen and paper and asked me to draw something come up with some grandiose marketing plan, I couldn't do that. I'm very much so a process driven person. And so I would say definitely creating the value, that is going to be the biggest thing in your team. Is yes, finding the right project management system is number one. But if you find the right system, but you're not creating that value for your team or even for yourself, you're not going to get the discipline of getting in there and using it. So creating that value, creating those SOPs, creating those templates, showing people how it's going to make their job easier. And that goes into making sure you're finding a system that you will work best in, but creating that value is going to definitely make sure your team's in there, you're in there, and it'll just make the process so much better. But if you're just signing up for a project management tool and you just dump a bunch of stuff in there and it's not done right, people are going to be way more confused than before you had it. So creating the value, I would say, is another thing, is make sure that value is there for sure before rolling it out to your team.
Yeah. Well, Jamie, if people are not convinced that they need a project management tool after listening to this episode, then I will be shocked. So get out there and do your research and get started. Yeah. If there's any kind of last words of wisdom that you want to share about why they're so impactful, or why these can be game changers for your organization, what would you leave people with?
I would just leave people with is think about where you want to go with your business. If it's to grow your business and to bring more people into your business, and to maybe eventually sell your business one day, having a project management tool that has all of your information in it is going to help you immensely. And doing it from the beginning, or even early on, if you're not early on and you're like, oh my gosh, am I too late to the game? No, that's not it. But what I would say is the sooner you can implement it into your business, the absolute better. You're going to be able to sell your business for more one day. You're not going to be like, everything's in my head, I don't know what to tell people. You will sleep better, 100%. You're going to feel confident that everything's being tracked. So I would say is just do it. Your life will definitely be better. Your life will be better for it. Your employees' lives will be better. Your clients' lives will be better. Things will just feel a lot more like a business than everything's just in my head and scattered everywhere.
Yep, that's so true. Well, Jamie, thank you so much for this. If people want to find out more about you and connect with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is a great way. Where I run a business called Altitude Operations, so you can look us up on Instagram and LinkedIn, and all those things were there. So absolutely.
Yeah, and we'll link that all up on the show notes at thefirstclick.net/170. So head on over there. Jamie, thank you so much for joining me today. This was awesome.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate you.
Thank you to Jamie for joining us today. I need to hop back in and start working on my SOPs. That's my homework that I have gotten from this episode. It's always on my list and something that I really struggle to get done. So if you're struggling to get your SOPs done too, send me a message and maybe we can help hold each other accountable. Sammy@thefirstclick.net. But for now, I hope that you'll subscribe so you don't miss out on a single episode. New episodes launch every Tuesday. Check out the show notes, transcripts, and YouTube video for this episode at thefirstclick.net/170. And I can't wait to see you in the next one.